Hey, did you guys see the new post from BuiltToCruise? Oh, wait, they're here right now. We're live on live. All right. My name is Jason Ballard, also known as ODB or Old Dirty Ballard, and I am from the Tampa Bay area, born and raised in Florida. I've been in the tech industry for about 21, 22 years, and I've been in several ties since 1999. I'm sitting next to my truck, Bada-Bing. That was the last mini truck of the year. It won that prestigious award in 2013, thanks to Jimmy's Rod and Customs for building it. So this is an interesting kind of introduction into my whole automotive history. What's ironic is I grew up in a family that didn't really wrench, so to speak. My dad, rest in peace, Papa Smurf, he had a 59 Apache, and I loved the truck as a kid. It was a joy to ride in. It was kind of a rusty old thing, and he did a semi-restoration, not personally, but he had it painted. It was always awesome riding in the truck as a kid. One of the things, the window would, the window crank would never work, so he'd just pull the key out of the ignition driving down the road and stick it in the kind of the sill thing and just pull it up. It was kind of crazy, but those little memories, I always enjoyed riding in vehicles. And as I got a little bit older, I was in middle school, and every single day we would see this truck that would drive by, and he was a high schooler. And, our bus would be passing, if you will, his truck coming towards us. And we'd always look out the back window of the bus, and we'd see the mural on this tailgate. And this later I found out was a guy named Chris Lopez. He basically had built this cool Mitsubishi truck. I think it was an 88 Mighty Max. It had a topper, and he would change the mural every couple years. And from there on, I was gravitated towards, I want a mini truck. Now, when I turned 15 into 16, I really didn't have a spot to work on a vehicle. I really didn't have a lot of tools. My father, again, wasn't necessarily someone that, was going out on the weekends and wrenching. So what that evolved into was, I got my first car, real nice stereo system, alarm, things that were, very popular to teenagers back then. And in turn, that morphed into me going to community college, and I bought this truck in August of 1997. Truck didn't have air condition. We had air condition installed in it, believe it or not, at a local place here. But I was finally in a truck, and my friends, they're the ones that kind of said, hey, look, we'll show you how to change brakes. We'll show you how to do these things. And it was stuff, believe it or not, that I had just never done. And from that point on, I started seeing like, wow, this can be done. Wow, I can lower my truck. I could put spindles on it. Wow, I can do this. But I would say, even as a mini trucker, many of us were drawn to the newsstands when my family would take us to the grocery store. There was a cash and carry here, and I wanted to go. Nowadays kids, I'm sure, don't want to go to the grocery store, but I wanted to go because Minitruckin Magazine, right? It was there. I still remember the first issue that I bought of Minitruckin, or that I had my parents purchase. And then I also remember my first Truckin magazine. Still have both of those. And it really, from there, started a lifelong journey, if you will, into just loving the culture and what I call, and many of us call, our lifestyle. In middle school and into high school, Mustangs were real popular. Of course, I gotta say this, Vanilla Ice from Florida, he had the popular song Ice Ice Baby, and who doesn't remember rolling down A1A, Beach Drive Avenue in a 5.0, right? So around the 50th anniversary of the Mustang, the convertibles were hot and things like that. And my friends, they were twins, still very good friends with them. They both had Mustangs. One was a convertible, one was a hardtop and hatchback. And I ended up with an 88 Mustang, believe it or not. And I was pretty blessed. I mean, by today's standards, $5,500 got me into a car that had a V8. It had an awesome JL system in it, alarm, real nice CD player. I remember the night that we went to pick up the car, the guy, and this is funny enough because I just watched the trailer for the new Top Gun movie that's coming out next year, 2020. The gentleman who I bought the car from, the car was so clean. He said, hey, do you mind if I want to take it for one last ride? I said, sure. My dad, rest in peace, Papa Smurf, and I get in the car, and he drives, of course, this gentleman, and he puts in the CD with the Kenny Loggins famous song, the Top Gun, epic track, and he just kind of cruises around his neighborhood, and he's like, all right, it's time to sell it. And and being in high school, I was stoked to have that kind of car. I had a real nice paint job and things like that, but it was good for that era of my life. But I knew at that point, once I got rid of that car, I'm going trucks and I'm not going back. So my first custom vehicle really has to be the S10 here. The Mustang was something that when I purchased it, it was kind of already done, so to speak. And at that age, I just needed to get to school and have something to roll around with. The S10, when I picked it up in August of '97, it was right before I started at the local community college. And essentially, I knew right away, because I had been reading Minitruckin then since maybe '93, I want to say. I knew that the truck wasn't going to stay stock. So there's several variations of this truck, and I think that's the best way to explain it. That the first variation was what many of us go through, static drop with BuiltToC products and a topper. That was a cool cruiser. It was on stock wheels, it was lowered, a topper. Really the influence was Minitruckin Magazine. There's no other way to put it. Many of us probably forget the influence that the magazine had on us. When we look through those issues now, it brings back memories. But if you were someone that didn't have a vehicle like that, or your truck was bone stock, you saw guys in there having a good time and ladies at truck runs and shows around the nation, and you said, man, in your mind, hey, I want to get out there and work on my stuff. So that's what I did. Now, I didn't know how to do all of it, so I had friends at the time that I had met, and they had taught me some things, and as I mentioned, my other twin friends had taught me how to kind of wrench. But really from there, the truck morphed in from a static drop truck, as many do, into eventually an airbag truck within 2 years with a link setup on the back. It morphed in from there to, now my friends are body dropped, so let me take it back to the same place and get a body dropped. At no point of those first 2 or 3 stages was the truck ever, quote, finished. It was more of, hey, go out there on the weekend, take the mirrors over to the local paint shop, get them painted, color match some things, go cruising on Friday night. That was the whole premise of the beginnings of what became Bada-Bing. So behind me is kind of a rare copy of the original rendering of my truck, which it ultimately turned out just like the rendering, which was awesome. Keg Media did that rendering back in 2002-ish, something around there, maybe 2003 or 2004, but it was a long time ago. So in those early days of Keg, cutting edge graphics, and then obviously morphed into Keg Media, I still have the CD that he had sent me of that rendering. And the biggest difference in what you see in that rendering is that it was called Project Severed You. And the whole theme and premise, and not everyone knows this, is that my goal at that time was, the truck game is ratcheting up, and we were going to sever the competition. And the frame had a bunch of spikes on it, and it kind of had a backbone, if you will. The truck was kind of coming together. We decided to go from the the traditional body drop that it had into, everybody's doing frames. So we kind of pushed our buddy. He did a firewall back frame, and it started to morph more into Project Severed You. It was kind of going to that next level. And a friend of mine ended up moving out of the state, and I'd put a lot of money in the truck, and the truck just hadn't got to the point that I wanted it. So at the time, I had ventured off and I was building the Suburban. And like many of us, we say, oh, well, why this one's, being built, I'm going to build this other one, which that can be a challenge, right? Because now you're funneling funds over to something else. And we all know about that. Back in the day, Courtney Hallowell kind of wrote about it, and he said, I need a daily driver for my daily driver, right? And I started to kind of get to that point. And I was talking to Jimmy Graham at the time. He was at a custom shop that he eventually worked out for about 10 years or so. And I saw the work that they were doing, and we were going to pull that Suburban in there, build a frame, kind of take it to the next level. While I was on the waiting list, my head's going, I'm going, what? Why am I going to put a lot of money into the Suburban when this is the truck that I need to finish? So we devised a plan, And I want to say it was January of 2008, we took the truck over there. And as the truck started coming together, something that a lot of people don't know is like, okay, well, why did the name change? And I'm a big Sopranos fan. And on The Sopranos, their club is Bada-Bing. And there was a famous truck built, and Mitch Henderson has been a guest on the podcast that I produce. And his truck, as many know, was cha-ching when it kind of morphed. And unfortunately, there was a tragic accident with it. But with the name, there was a ring to it. Cha-ching, like, okay, it's a household name, right? It kind of rings, if you will, and it kind of rolls off the tongue, so to speak. And I told myself back then, as this truck was kind of morphing from Severed U into Bada-Bing, I want to build something not necessarily to go down in history as like, oh, this is one of the coolest trucks. That's not why I did it. But I wanted to build a truck, or have a truck built, so to speak, that people would remember. At the end of the day, Jimmy's Rod and Customs is the reason why this truck was finished to the caliber that it was, and the reason why it won the Mini Truck of the Year for the final truck to win that prestigious award. That's kind of how we got to Bada-Bing. And my late father, which we lost, unfortunately, unexpectedly in October of 2017. He jokingly, we would always kid around at shows, and he always came up with nicknames for people. And one of the things that I always cherished that he always said is Bada-Bing beats anything you've ever seen. And he wasn't saying it, in a competition perspective, but he just was so proud of the truck. And, you got to imagine a father that, has a son that goes and does something that he believes or deems as cool in his book, or that he really loves, or saw the passion that I have for this mini truck scene. It was always cool to hear him say it, and I wish I could hear him say it again, So a question I get a lot is, where's Bada-Bing? And within a week of my dad's passing in October, we had planned to take the truck to Slamfest that year. And we did, mission accomplished, and it was not easy. I had just literally, my life had changed, but I'm a person that if I say I'm going to do something, for the most part, I want to do it. And we took the truck there, thanks to my homie Vic Figueroa for really getting the truck ready and getting the truck, off the trailer and that type of thing. And we showed it with when the wheels off, which Jimmy knows. I think he made the comment at that show to someone that he's always wanted to do that, not only with the wheel off, but with the hood off. So that was kind of like a nod to Ballistic, which if you guys know me and listen to our Lifestyle, the podcast, I know Jeremy knows Ballistic well. We had him on years ago with Pat, but yeah, it was like back in the day, and it was a nod to the old school, to the West Coast. And I say that because the truck now has been kind of tucked away. This year, this Slamfest will mark 2 years that it's kind of been, I don't want to say in hiding, but it kind of has. And the reason being is, one, my father, it's a mental thing for me. He loved the truck so much, and it was right around the time, that we took it to Slamfest. But, a lot of people ask like, hey, is the truck finished? Is it done? And, there were some possibilities to potentially sell it, and I haven't been able to do that because, I talked to my son and he said, look, Papa Smurf wouldn't want you to do it. The truck, the motor has been rebuilt in it. I had some challenges on my end with some head gaskets and some cooling challenges, and the truck is alive. It is, and it's still here. You guys see it. It's not in Fort Knox or anywhere like that, but the truck will make a comeback. And when I mean comeback, it's not coming back from the pits of despair. This truck doesn't have many miles on it, and if anybody knows me, I'm a type of guy that likes to have a pair of shoes that are 10 years old that have never been worn, that I can take out and say, okay, I'm gonna wear these one day, right? But I mean that in seriousness. The truck is gonna come back, and I think you guys are gonna see that the big thing with it was take a break. It had a great run. We started taking this truck to shows as a chassis in 2009. And up until 2017, man, it was still taking names. And that's not why we did it. We did it to show that, hey, this can be done. And Jimmy's Rod and Customs, it goes to an unbelievable detail. So about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I was helping a couple different outlets, online outlets, as well as print media outlets. And I thought to myself, I really want to start something. And, with magazines, there's a lot that goes into magazines, and I salute those guys, whether it's an online magazine or not. There's a lot of photography, there's video, there's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. And I haven't been in the tech world a long time. I read a lot of tech sites, and I said, you know what? I want to start a podcast. And a lot of times people will say, write down what, 3 things that you're really good at or 3 things that you really love. And one of those top 3 things is always the mini truck scene. So I was on a podcast that some local guys were doing, and they were doing a good job at it, and did some more research. And as soon as I went on that podcast, I said to myself, I want to do this. I need to get the equipment. And much like Jeremy and the team here with Serena that are doing BuiltToCruise, I saw an opportunity to fill a niche, or fill a void, if you will, for the mini truck scene. Many of us know Minitruckin had, gone away back in, I think it was 2014, technically. And then you had Sport Truck was gone. So it's kind of like, well, man, we love magazines, but what can we do to maybe fill a void? And having been in the scene for, at that point, 20 years, it's like, hey, I go to shows. I've been taking photos literally for 20 years at shows. Instagram's cool, but how can I ratchet it up? And that's what we did in August of 2015. It was on August 7th, we created our account with this podcast host company. And Mike and I, we went to the Minitruckin Memorial Cruise, which Tony and his homie, they put on every year for the following mini truckers in Florida. And we recorded our first audio there. And I don't dare go back and listen to the first episode, but if you get an opportunity, follow us. It's ROUR Lifestyle Podcast. And as I alluded to earlier, our goal with it is to bring forth stories and really respect the original guys, or what we call the OGs in this scene. Many from California, many from even the East Coast that really, or the Third Coast, where Radar and Lonnie are at. And Jeremy in this whole channel. But the goal is to bring people together in a positive way, but also highlight stories and road trips and trucks that will never finish, you name it. What I would tell people is, a lot of folks will still say, oh, I wish Minitruckin Magazine wouldn't have went away. There's magazines still out there. And oh, by the way, the podcast is free, much like this YouTube video that you're watching now. So go out there, support those folks, tell the homies, let them know that, hey, there's content out there. Just because Minitruckin Magazine's gone doesn't mean that there's not people that are going to shows nationwide or putting together content like what you're watching right now. This is always a fun topic, and we're going to cover this on the podcast soon, but what's a memorable show that you've went to, or the most memorable show? The one that comes to mind, it's Showfest. And I've been working on a project related to Minitruckin Magazine recently. I've got a chance to see some of the coverage before I started going in 97, 98, 99. My first year I went with my friends here locally, we went in 2000. And I'm so glad that I did, because between 2000 and I forget what year, I went all the way up until I didn't attend the very last year in Greenville when things got real crazy. But that show, hands down, blew me away. And I'm so honored to have said that I went so many years in a row, bought the show shirt, saw the cover trucks there, saw the West Coast peeps with, Ernie Macias, Kerry Iacino, IF Customs guys, all those guys cruised out there. It's hard to say, but it was almost like a Woodstock for mini truckers. It wasn't that crazy. We weren't doing the mudslides and stuff. We went into that city and, it got a little crazy, right? A lot of people were a little younger, but it was all in good fun. I don't think anyone, for the most part, in the core years of it ever got hurt. The money always went towards, I think, the burn victims of a local charity, I'll call it. And what those guys in Assorted Miniatures did, I got to tip my cap, because, it's almost an emotional thing, because and some of you guys might be thinking, how can that be? But when you think back and you have so many vivid memories, and you find out that the money was going towards a good cause, and you saw some of the baddest trucks ever built. I mean, I'm still scanning photos from Greenville 2000. These awesome trucks, they're awesome and we love looking at them, but the trucks are what brought us to the middle of nowhere in Greenville, to where they had brown water, for God's sake, right? Everybody said, do not drink the water, okay? And I still get goosebumps thinking about just all the good times. And if you've never had an opportunity to go there, keep searching YouTube, find some of the old videos. I think the statute of limitations has gone, right? But it's thankfully, but salute to Assorted Miniatures and all of what they did, even bringing the show back. I got a lot of love for those guys and what they did. When you think of mini truckers, you think of some guys, some chicks that are, a little hellacious, not crazy as the Hells Angels. Salute to those guys. But we weren't out to make any trouble or anything, but mini truckers we were about being different. And I think about this all the time. As mini truckers, we wanted to have a truck that was low and have people that looked at us and said, oh, why would you do that to a truck? And, why are you driving slow over railroad tracks? You don't want to bend your billet wheels and stuff. And we set out to do things that were different. At the end of the day, like, you had trucks that people look at the Minitruck and Where Are They Now group. Last I checked, over 20,000 people in there. And they're asking about some weird, obscure truck that just moved them as a child or as a young adult. And I love it. I love seeing people that say, you know what, when I was in high school, I saw such and such. So I think all of that has molded me to who I am today. I would say 100%, if I never got into mini trucking, who knows where the hell I'd be right now. So something I wanted to kind of throw out there to everyone watching this, no matter how you got here, maybe the wormhole of YouTube, which I think we've all been down. We just recently lost someone that many of you knew, some didn't. But Jennifer Lacy, it's JenniferLacy. There is a hashtag RIP Jennifer Lacy, but I would ask you just to search her name on Facebook and see the mini truck community that's come through and shared photos and stories and just accounts of being in her presence. I know she was very young and she had health challenges for a good part of her life. And it's cool that she built, along with Jimmy Graham and Shane, they built a memorable truck that won the Mini Truck of the Year award. I think it was 2005. It really moved a lot of people. It's called Chicks Ride. The tag is CHX and then Ride. But the feature was CHIX Ride, Chicks Ride. And she was an amazing person. And I say that, there's people every day around us that you never realize are going to be gone. Rest in peace, Papa Smurf. Rest in peace, Jennifer Lacy. So there's a lot more mini truckers out there that have passed away. Spend time with your friends, family, live life to the fullest. Do what you want to do, whether it be trucks, cars, whatever. And, stay motivated because you can do whatever you want to do. I just want to say thank you to Jimmy Graham. I know I can't tag him enough on Instagram. He probably gets sick of it. So lately I haven't been tagging him, but literally this truck that you're seeing, it would never have been finished without him. So thank you. Check the hashtag Jimmy's Rod N Customs with an S. Follow that hashtag if you want to see some of the sickest trucks ever built. And he still continues to stay, as we always say, on the rise. Additionally, if you love the content on this page, they are doing an awesome thing. Like and subscribe, send screenshots, click the share, send it to all the homies. If you've got a WhatsApp thread going with the homies or an iPhone or Google Messenger or whatever you use for your messages, and some of you guys have big messages that are all threaded together with all your club mates, which I can't stand those, by the way, because my phone's like ding, ding, ding. Okay, leave that group. Instead of texting everyone, you could be watching this awesome content on BuiltToCruise. So to Jeremy and Serena for cruising around the US, for bringing us awesome content, for building cool vehicles, thank you for what you guys do. Check out our Lifestyle, the podcast, on any of the platforms that you find your podcasts, and we appreciate everyone. ODB, stay on the rise. what got us going was like, okay, I want to pull up to the McDonald's if there was ever a cruise night by you, and I want to have the loudest stereo where everybody looks at me. You know, I want to have neons because I want to pull up and everybody's like, oh, whoa, look at this, you know?
It's funny that you say the Woodstock of car shows, because I've heard so much shit from
She never believes me, but whenever we talk, she confirms it. She's like, what the fuck?